Wow, okay, that video did a little better than I thought it would. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Soya. Thank you for watching the last video. You did watch the last video, right? You're not here without watching the last video, are you? I can tell. I'll know when you comment. Okay, hi, yes, if you have not watched the last video, I am going to rip off the band-aid right off the bat in this video compared to the last one. And this video is going to make a lot more sense and frankly be a lot more enjoyable if you watch that video first, as it contains what I'd argue to be some of the most compelling evidence we have of what I'm about to tell you. This is your last warning. There is no going back. It's a really cool video. You're gonna spoil yourself. Okay, you stayed. Here it is. I can't believe this thing is a fucking penguin all this time! Look at the feet! Look at the beak! Oh my god, for years I wondered what this big guy is and... Oh, right. December being a human. Fine. I guess I'll talk about that too. Whatever. Hi, unscripted part. This is just this. I just added this side note in because I wanted to reply to a comment. I had a few people tell me that perhaps Beardley is the big penguin. This corresponds to people in the light world, not the sword group minigame. And besides, Beardley is not big. Beardley is not a penguin. Beardley can fly. This thing is not Beardley. This is this thing. This is foreshadowing something that has not happened yet, in my opinion. This thing is standing in our way, blocking us going further, just like the big penguin with the books upstairs and the sea with onion. It's a penguin. But regardless, doesn't matter. Beardley's also a lightener. The theory still stands. Even if you still believe that this is Beardley, the theory still stands. So this video is going to be a doozy. In this video, I hope to present to you every piece of evidence, supporting lore, and potential foreshadowing that I have been able to glean in my months of researching this and going down this rabbit hole, or I guess reindeer hole, or at least the compelling stuff. Yes, I'm going to talk about the shoes. Yes, I'm going to talk about the Sans dialogue. Yes, I'm going to talk about that gingerbread. But no, I am not going to just say all the same things you've already heard before that perhaps left you unconvinced. I'm going to do my best to try and explain not just why December holiday being human makes sense with the information we've been provided, but also why it makes sense as a story. Also, I'd like to re-add this disclaimer from the previous video. I might be dead wrong, and that's okay. This might be the wrongest video in the history of Wrongville. I'm not sure that it is. I would give it a watch. But if it is, that's totally fine. We're just here to have a little fun. Just before we begin, I'd like to say one quick thing, and that is to try and keep an open mind. I understand completely if you will be upset or even devastated in some way by this reveal if it ends up being true. And perhaps that might make someone go into each point I'm going to say here with a closed mind. However, I always say however, I'm not here with some kind of agenda, okay? I'm not here to upset anybody. I'm just analysing my favourite piece of fiction and sharing my findings. And if it ends up being wrong, that's awesome! Toby's at the fucking wheel, dude. I'm letting the dog do its thing. Trust the dog. I don't know. No matter where it goes, okay? Shut up! All I ask are two things. The first is to not be remembered as the Dessa's human girl in a year when this is all wrong, okay, please? And the second thing is for you to try and be kind in your disagreements with me and with one another. When I started making this video, it was originally a lot longer because it started with a long section that I have now cut, in which I tried to open your mind to the idea that human December in Deltarune or in Undertale is not impossible if you feel like it is. I went through a lot of points, like that nobody in Snowdon, the outskirts of monster society, even knows what a human looks like, in particular Papyrus and the Monster Kid, who are the exact two people that Sans talks about. And Sans is the one who promised to protect any human that fell into the underground. And I talked about how it's the being with the most determination that can save and load in the underground, not just who the human is. And I talked about how it's perfectly in character for the hypocrite and coward Asgore Dreamer, who doesn't even want to fulfill this plan in the first place, to not kill the adopted child of his dying best friend and do exactly what happened to him. But see, I cannot fully prove to you that all of that I just said indeed took place. And if you've already shut out your mind to this possibility, I don't know if I can open it. With all that being said, I'm just going to jump straight into the fun part of this video, the evidence. Because it's my video at the end of the day and I just want to have a good time. So whether you believe or not, that's okay. I hope you can at least enjoy this and perhaps be convinced along the way. Okay, here we go. It's time to eat some gingerbread. When the player takes Chris downstairs at the beginning of chapter 1, we can interact with things in the kitchen and living room to learn a few things about Chris's life here with Toriel. And one of the very first things I'm sure a lot of you stumbled upon when you scooched Chris up against everything in the room and smashed the interact button wondering what the hell is going on, is this. Cookie cutters for gingerbread monsters and gingerbread humans. These cutters can also be interacted with again, in case the player missed this, in chapter 2, with Susie and Toriel sharing the following dialogue in a part that's a lot harder to miss. Hey, what are those metal people shapes in the cupboard? Like handcuffs for a little guy's whole body? Haha, those are for gingerbread, Susie. Gingerbread men. And gingerbread monsters, of course. Okay, first of all, notice the order that Toriel speaks in. Gingerbread men, before she takes a pause, ... and says, and gingerbread monsters, of course. Gingerbread men to Toriel was perhaps the default, was the thing that naturally fell out of her mouth when describing these things. Gingerbread monsters was seemingly the secondary thought, after she realised that that description would not fully explain everything that was in the cupboard to Susie. Susie herself then says, gingerbread monsters, huh? Cool, implying that she has perhaps never seen gingerbread monsters before. Notice that she questions the monsters specifically, not the gingerbread men, saying that it's cool that Toriel has those. We can then glean from Susie's reaction that it is perhaps somewhat odd, or at least uncommon, to have gingerbread humans and monsters, as opposed to just having gingerbread men/humans. These are unique utensils. Now I want to ask you a question. What time of year do most people eat gingerbread? At Christmas. Notice the cutters are in the cupboard. They're not put out on the countertop in either instance. They are specifically put away for a later date. And what happens at Christmas? The holidays and the dreamers share time together. Could having gingerbread representations of humans and monsters to share together with everyone be solely for Chris's sake? I mean, maybe. It's a cute but perhaps odd detail to kind of make sure the player sees in this moment by making it dialogue between Susie and Toriel at the end of the second chapter in case the player missed it in the first, when people are probably paying the most attention to the details at this point, knowing the chapter is soon coming to a close, and if it's anything like the first chapter, it's probably going to end pretty shockingly. I think it makes more sense and is far more cute too when you think this is a gathering of humans and monsters, which, come to think of it, really start to ask yourself, why are these two families gathering in the first place? Why do they meet every year? Why do their kids hang out together so much? Sure, Asgo and Rudy were friends in college, but this? Even the kids too? Could it be perhaps that both families share some kind of bond, something in common, some kind of reason to have everyone come over at Christmas to share gingerbread monsters and gingerbread humans together, and for Chris to put on their horns? We'll get to that, do not worry. However, this is not the only appearance of gingerbread cutters in this game. There's one more to talk about, one you might have missed, and it's in the holiday home. In the cupboard are cutters for gingerbread monsters. Notice the pause, again, the ... almost like the narrator, or perhaps even Chris themselves, were expecting something more, that something else should be in here, that perhaps they're taking an extra moment to be sure it's only just monsters, or perhaps they're upset for some reason that there's no gingerbread humans, or maybe it's another instance of the narrator or Chris choosing to lie to us. Stop. Look at all this. Stop and ask yourself, why is this here? What purpose does this serve? What purpose does putting all this gingerbread stuff around and omitting humans from this particular one with a strange pause in the holiday home serve as a writer? Why does any of this exist in the first place, if not to foreshadow or to misdirect. Look, I'm not just seeing things, am I? Because I'm definitely hearing things. What is this song called again? Oh, Gingerbread House, where the gingerbread people live. And the gingerbread people we see in the game are the gingerbread monsters and gingerbread humans together. Now, Carol, some of you might say, tries to preserve everything and would not throw out these human cutters. I agree, she would preserve them, but I don't think she would leave them out either. Carol obviously knows a lot. She clearly knows about dark worlds and, you know, you and everything. Like, probably also literally you, right? And she knows to hide the guitar with the code from Susie. This is a meticulous woman. But she's also a mother. And while it might be fine to preserve December's room exactly as it was, behind the safety of the room door, I don't think a grieving mother would be able to stand looking at gingerbread humans in her cupboard every day, reminding her of the daughter she lost. So whether she's intentionally hiding these gingerbread human cutters to thwart the player, or to help with her own grief, or perhaps, if it's even Chris, intentionally ignoring the gingerbread human cutters, and they are in there, much like Chris does with things like close their eyes when entering Asriel's search history room in Chapter 2, I believe that they are there, that they exist somewhere. Again, why this dialogue? Why this omission? Why this lore about these families meeting at Christmas, the specific time in which most gingerbread is consumed? And speaking of Christmas gatherings, let's talk about the horns. I don't think I need to stay on this point for long, as I'm sure a lot of you know. Toriel in Chapter 1 explains that when Chris was younger, they were upset about the fact that their horns were not growing in and asked when this would happen. In an attempt to not break their child's heart, they bought Chris a red horned headband. This same headband can be seen in the flashback scene with Tenna, describing everyone coming over for Christmas and leaving one by one. Right here, in Chris's silhouette, there's the horns. This same scene happens to be the only official, genuine sighting of December Holiday in the entire game. And there are only two details that we can even begin to make out. The first are the horns on her head. Horns that the same scene establishes can be fake. The same scene in which these people are almost certainly sharing gingerbread monsters and gingerbread humans together. The second detail are her ears. But look up reindeer headbands and more often than not, they come with ears. Toby chose to create this sprite, okay, where the only thing we can make out are her horns. I understand that the red horn headband is kind of a Chekhov's gun at this point for people, but I think it's going off in this scene. I just think it's that the gun has a silencer on it and we're all waiting for a bigger bang, for the headband to be Ralsei, or connecting to Chris and Catty's satanic stuff, or friend, or the weird route, or whatever. And it's still night, but it's going off right now in front of our faces. I'm not saying it can't go off again and be something even cooler too, but to deny this scene, to deny what's happening right in front of our faces because you have hope that there's going to be a bigger payoff for the headband later, I think you should look again. This is the smoking gun. This is the clearest evidence we have. And again, why does all this exist at all if it is nothing? Okay, fine, let's get the shoes out of the way. In December's room in Chapter 4, when we're in the closet trying to reach the guitar and battling with Chris, we can see a lot of things, including Asriel's sweater, some musical instruments and sporting equipment in the background, and a massive pile of seemingly baseball shoes in the foreground. Look at the colouring of the spray. This is supposed to stick out. We are supposed to notice this. These are a lot of shoes. However, these are not the shoes fit for hooves. This is a misconception that I see parroted a lot online as kind of a silver bullet to this theory. However, these shoes have no description. There is no way to interact with them. The shoes people are actually talking about come from this text description when inspecting a box in the bottom right corner of December's room. And right there we see shoes fit for hooves. So boom, right? It's done. GG, she's not a human. Cool. Well, hang on a minute. If we look at the entire dialogue, We can also see that this box contains Azriel's retainer. Even though December currently has possession of this item, it is not hers. It is your brother's retainer. What does this establish? That not everything in this box belongs to Des. In chapter 2, Noelle says that she doesn't really do shoes, at least not unless they're custom made. Notice how nobody in Noelle's family wears shoes. We can see Rudy and Carol both in chapter 4 with their hooves out. We can see Noelle all the time with her hooves out. Well, you might say they're Des's because she might need them for sports. Noelle is also part of the cross-country team with Jockington and perhaps would need shoes for this. Just take everything else out of your mind for a moment, even the two being sisters for a moment, okay? Noelle is the only confirmed character to need shoes fit for hooves, not December. Again, why are we being told all this? If we're just to assume Des is just another deer, why not let us interact with these shoes, but conveniently have a box in the corner that we can't see tell us about custom hoof shoes? Why include all these details at all as a writer that is famous for constant foreshadowing and misdirection? Also, this box is full of junk and miscellaneous things, expired rations, burnt lighters. December clearly keeps her shoes along with her sporting things that are not broken in her closet, like the baseballs and stuff. Again, why is this like this if not to serve a purpose? The large pile of shoes, conveniently, let us see what these shoes look like from every possible angle. And you know what these shoes have? Toes. Elongated flat feet with toes. There's no way a deer would be able to balance in these things if they even fit them somehow. Why, in a world of monsters, would you make custom shoes to look like human shoes? Just take a moment and in your mind put these shoes on the other holidays and see how ridiculous they look. It's awesome, yeah, it's cool as hell. But it's not logical. If the box dialogue was here on its own, then maybe. But Noelle specifically telling us that she needs these shoes, that's for a reason. And it's quite clear to me that it's misdirection. We've looked in the closet, we've looked in the box, but let's take a look at the room as a whole, as well as the room next door. I want you to take a moment with me and look at the visual storytelling going on here in these rooms. The clues that we can glean about the kind of people who live in these rooms, Noelle and December. Noelle, an A+ pupil, someone that fits well into hometown society. Her trophies above her bed for her excellence, her study area neatly organised, her bed made, her room tidy. This is a person who belongs where they are. December, on the other hand, is an outcast. Her bed dishevelled, her belongings scattered and rather grim and possibly disturbing. There are no awards, there is no organisation. This is the room of a person who does not fit in. Hang on, sorry, I think I had the script the wrong way around. Okay, wait, here, let me read that again. So as I was saying, Azriel, an A+ pupil, someone that fits well into hometown society. His trophies above his bed for his excellence, his study area by the computer neatly organised, his bed made, his room tidy. This is a person who belongs where they are. Chris, on the other hand, is an outcast. Their bed dishevelled, their belongings scattered and rather grim and possibly disturbing. There are no awards, there is no organisation. This is a... Do you see it? This is intentional. We are supposed to notice this. This, like everything else in this game, like Cat Petters, Dragon Blazers, Lord of the Hammer, The Prophecy, Deltarune and Undertale itself, this is the same story repeating itself with small adjustments. In this case, it is December that is the older sibling. In one case, you have a loving but dysfunctional family split apart. In another, you have a colder and perhaps equally dysfunctional family that's stuck together. This is visually telling the story of these two paths, of the kind of childhoods that these characters have, and I'm sure a bunch of people watching this experienced in some form or another. Both of these children, December and Chris, both of them are outcasts. Both of them are highly talented musicians. Both of them, if you subscribe to the previous video or think December Holiday is the Night, wield a sword. Both of them indulge in antisocial behaviour. Are you seeing this now? These characters are parallels of one another. Look at Chris. Their family in the dark world is royalty. The king, the queen, and assumedly the we'll get into that, okay? But Chris is just a knight. Chris is not royalty. Chris is not part of the bloodline. And if you believe that December is also a knight and her family run the entire town, you know, like royalty. I mean, just look at this. Look at these sprites. Look how similar this is. Look at the gestures, the body language, the personality. Look at the pointing that Chris does when they act, something which is their special talent as the human on the team, as hero_sword, as the sword wielder, just like December, the sword magician. A sword, and I hate to break it to you guys, that we can clearly see held by the girl in the... This is probably going to be the most contentious part of this video. The other things so far I'm very confident in. But unless I'm able to prove to you here, beyond a shadow of a doubt, who each person in this prophecy is, which is impossible right now, I'm not going to be able to fully prove what I'm about to say to you. But what I can say is I think what I'm going to talk about is the best educated and logical guess we can make. Let's start with the prince. I have a lot to say about the prince. I'm confused because I feel like the unused text could possibly even be Azrael and not Des, thus making him the prince alone in deepest dark. As you can see, this person is clearly very alone, calling for help, and it's clearly very dark. The more I look into things, the more I start to think that perhaps this prophecy has already happened, that is happening again with this new group of 3, that, like we said in the last chapter, this game is about the same story repeating itself, and that perhaps this was Azrael or has become Azrael, but it's now also Ralsei, that these heroes can in fact be multiple people, and that perhaps the reason Des and Azrael are absent is because they already followed this prophecy and something really bad has happened. I have absolutely no idea. Again, it's impossible to have any idea right now, especially about the cage, because this could be literally anybody in the game, but we'll get into that. None of this section is really any kind of prediction on who is who in the prophecy. I'm more just discussing with you here points on who they could be. At most, I'm just trying to make an educated guess with some people that seem to line up with these descriptions in some way. However, I can't say for sure. But what I can say is that a prince is not a girl. I mean, they can be. I know I used to be. But in the context of this game's story, the prince has to be a boy. Now, whether or not you think At Last was the girl is merely describing the second hero, the girl, or a fourth girl entirely, a fourth hero I should say, and I think it's definitely the latter, guys. The game is called Deltarune. Delta, 4. 4 people. 4 people on the rune. The 3 heroes and the angel/angel's vessel if it's us. The door in the sword root creates a keyhole shape by placing a triangle underneath the circle representing the angel, creating a body, a Christmas angel's body, a circle on top of a triangle, an angel atop a Christmas tree. But again, this is besides the point. Whichever version of the prophecy you think is true, I am just going to be talking about the 3 heroes right now. The prince is a boy, and from the dark, which means probably a darkener, and if it is Azrael, it could be that Azrael's already dead, like at the beginning of Undertale, and has been resurrected as a darkener in the dark. But at the very least, they're a boy. Keep that in mind. The first hero, the cage. Okay, stop. I want you, yes you, to think of a human. A real human. Think of your friend, okay? Imagine having to describe them to me, what they look like. Do it in your head right now. Describe them to me. Did you feel the need to establish that said human friend comes with human soul and parts? Like it's a bonus. Like they're not usually supposed to come with that. This is not how you describe a human. You do not say they come with human soul and parts. Of course they do. They're a human. And if we're following Ralsei's prophecy, not that I even trust that anymore, but God, maybe that's another video someday, possibly. A human, a monster, and a prince from the dark. And the third hero is a prince. Could it be that this hero is actually a monster, which would mean that the second hero has to be the human? Look at this prophecy panel. The heroes in order left to right, 1, 2, 3. The prince is the third hero, just like the prophecy. But the monster is clearly the first hero, and the human is the second. Again, I have no idea for sure about any of this. I have no idea for sure who this first hero is. It's literally impossible to say for sure. But what's not impossible to say, as we've already established, is that December is a girl who wields wields a sword, just like the human of the team, just like the second hero, who is a girl with a sword with no antlers. Oh, but maybe it's Noelle wearing a hood, or Susie looking upwards. I love these ideas. I think they're so cute and awesome. This particular image almost made me cry because I love Susie so much. But the third hero is wearing a hood, and we can see it quite clearly. The gap in the hood is visible as negative space, and I'll get into Susie's role in a minute. And as for the lack of antlers, this is not an accident. This is not done for no reason. Just look at Asgore in the prophecy with his horns and his crown. Look at Jockington, complete by name with his cap. Look at Lancer, the pointy-headed, complete with pointy-ass fucking head. There is a reason there is no pointy ass antlers on this fucking head. And when you look at everything we've been talking about December being a sword magician and a human, it is a literal perfect fit. But to go back to Susie, and I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, Susie is not one of the heroes. Please do not get too mad at me about saying this. I think Susie is insanely important, even more important than the heroes, than the whole prophecy. She is the prophecy shatterer. She is going to be the one to change the ending. Of course she isn't in the prophecy, because the prophecy does not account for Susie, because she is going to be the one to break it. Look, there is so much foreshadowing for this with Gerson's secret boss dialogue. Stuff that maybe I will get into another day, but just do this. The next time you play Deltarune, look how often, for whatever reason, someone is cut off from talking about Susie being a hero, or someone neglects to include Susie when talking about heroes, or Susie herself saying she isn't a hero and we got the wrong person at the start of the game, or Gerson saying that she is the dragon, the antagonist of Dragon Blazers, or hell, go to the latest Fangamer commercial and look what happens when Tenna starts to list the heroes. And just before I play the clip, I want to make the point that Toby made sure people knew that he wrote this.
Wow! 3 classic heroes! Sword, scarf, and... Hey, wait a minute, Ram! I thought I told you to change the...
See? And the thing is, I knew this was coming. The second he started listing the heroes, my eyes widened. I knew Susie was going to be the last one, and for some reason, she would be excluded. Because it happens all the time. If you've watched my last video, I believe we have already proven that Susie is not the sword magician, something that is very clearly going to be very important. Susie does not wield a sword. Could she wield a sword someday? Yeah, maybe. There's no way to predict that right now. But I can tell you who does, for pretty much a fact. December Holiday, the sword magician. Oh, that's it. It's all spilling out. Here it all comes. Oh god. In chapter 1, when you're creating the machine to thrash your own ass, no, I'm not kidding, this is important, the description for the sword says it is a tomboyish blade. December is a tomboy who wields a sword. And hey, look at Susie coming out the bush. Look at the sprite. Look at the thing in her hair. What does it look like? Fake antlers. I bet you've never seen that before. The ribbons. Throughout the game, you can acquire ribbons as armor pieces. The Ralsei says Susie, the girl of the fun gang, is supposed to be the one to equip, but she can't. She refuses because she's not the girl. One of these ribbons, the blue one, even comes from the prize machine that also has huge links to Death, being the entrance of the mysterious 1225 room and dispensing a triangle that Chris puts back in the machine, like the one in the 1225 room. Meanwhile, Noelle says that they are nostalgic and familiar because they probably remind her of Death, because Death is probably the real girl. Notice nostalgic, a word that Noelle has used before in relation to memories about December. Chapter 3, Tenna suddenly reminisces about December, the musical prodigy, right before a rhythm game section with the human on guitar playing a song that sticks the Lost Girl motif right in your face with deeply interesting lyrics, seemingly related to the Dark Worlds and the Soul. And God, I'm going to come back to this song, I promise. But look at the image when you come back to play this game later. This is not Chris. Look at the outline, the colour, like the girl. Look at the hand they're holding the guitar in. This is a left-handed person, just like the knight. And Chris is holding the guitar right-handedly. Chris doesn't even have any evidence of playing guitar. But you know who does, and is a girl? December! And while we're on the subject of Raise Up Your Bat, which again I will get fully into shortly, a very common theory I see all the time is based on the lyrics of the song that was almost certainly written by December Holiday. Look at Tenna, again, reminiscing about December right before starting the song. The theory I see all the time is that Azrael and Death have explored the Dark Worlds before the events of the game. Are you one of those people watching? Do you believe this theory? I think there's a lot of evidence for it personally, and it would make a lot of sense if you do believe this. Who was sealing the dark fountains? They need a human soul to do it. Who was keeping the balance of light and dark? Did they just decide to needlessly endanger Asriel's very young sibling that they obviously care a lot about by dragging them along through dangerous worlds and hoping that they'd plug it up when they got to the end? Or does it make more sense that they didn't need to do all that because they already had a human soul? Chris almost certainly learned about and probably participated in Dark Worlds before the events of the game, but while they were this young, I doubt it very highly. I don't know if you can believe that these characters explored the Dark Worlds before us and not believe that some kind of human had to be involved. And if it's not Chris, and if every other character in the game is accounted for, and none of them are a human except one, and we have no way of confirming it, is it really going to be some new made-up character or something in the last 3 chapters of the game? Am I crazy here? Am I just saying things that don't make sense? At December's computer, we can see our Spotify playlist, and our favourite song is Human by Rag and Bone Man. Okay, that one's not real, sorry. But what is real is that Chris's bed in the Dark World, and a parallel to December and Chris's rooms being so similar, is a mostly pink bed with some blue throughout, the same pink as the girl in the prophecy. And what's on the wall? Stars, like the stars in December's room, which is probably where Asriel got his stars from. Also, when you fight the Knight, Chris sees stars. Brandish, a pretty major inspiration for Toby's work, with genuine parallels and direct references in Deltarune, has a human warrior that looks a lot like Chris called Varric, a name that Toby has referenced in his previous work as the protagonist of the Halloween hack, and a human fire ray magician girl called Delon. Is this anything? Probably not, but I thought it was worth mentioning. The bathroom in the Dreamer House. We can clearly see and inspect 2 bottles of shampoo, a giant bottle of pet shampoo, clearly for Toriel and Asriel, and a small bottle of apple shampoo that we can confirm Chris uses, even regardless of common sense, because Susie comments on it. But in chapter 4, if we take a peek in the holiday bathroom, oh, isn't that convenient? The shower curtain, which is drawn in a black outline and coloured and shaded as a foreground object, you know, like the trash can in the corner, which is also an actually important object because it's what Chris kicks in the weird route, is perfectly obscuring whatever bottles of shampoo or whatever else might be in there. Right, okay, this has been missing for a while. It might be weird to hang on to shampoo, but again, Carol preserves things. This, at the very least, is weird. It's suspicious. It sticks out. Look, you cannot unnotice this now. Every time you see this scene, you will look at the shower, not the sink with its grey outlines and muted colour palette to denote it as an unimportant object, but the shower, the same thing we can use in the Dreamer household to confirm that yes, a human lives here. The Samphire log from Undertale, gotta be wanting to talk about this one. The antlered girl and her big sis. This is weird. I understand it doesn't necessarily mean that the big sis does not have antlers, but the fact remains that it opens the possibility. Why not the antlered girls, the antlered sisters, and again, Papyrus and the Evil Kid, the 2 monsters that very clearly, above all other characters with in-game examples, do not know what a human looks like. The bake sale, oh my god, the fucking bake sale. The colours of the bake sale stands correlate to the Deltarune. Chris loves the Choco Diamond because it's probably the prince, their brother, Asriel, just like the tea in chapter 2, healing different amounts based on the character's relationship to the consumer. The pink one has a heart on it, the shape of a human soul, and the blue one is a fake stand-in. I'm insane. I know. I've poured over this so much. I've not even begun to go over every single detail that I've noticed, and I bet there is a bunch more that I've yet to find. Again, I'm not saying December is a human because that's the only option that satisfies me. It's not. It's just all making too much sense, and I just needed someone to hear it. I could go on with examples of weird things, and maybe this video will spark you to make some of these discoveries yourself. I know I've talked about avoiding too much speculation where I can, but while I've got you here, I think I might as well take a stab at it, right? And give you what I think all of this could mean. So here it is. My take. My actual theory. Is it correct? Maybe. Probably not. But that's not really all that important. Let's just have a little fun to end this video. Okay, so the bake sale. Where's this dark world again? It's in an abandoned classroom with a yellow aged drawing of a green turtle, signed Alvin. This is a drawing of Gerson. This is Gerson's classroom, abandoned after his death. Gerson's grave describes him as being a teacher, and the dark world created in chapter 4 by the Knight, remembering that dark worlds and their inhabitants are formed by the cognition of the person creating the fountain, has a very accurate Gerson being a teacher to Susie and the party. This was a dark world created by the night that has an accurate representation of Gerson in it, who is, if I can remind you, the author of the history of humans and monsters. This was a dark world created by someone who knew Gerson well, who had a close relationship with Gerson, who knew Gerson as a teacher. This classroom is the classroom that December and Azrael were a part of growing up. This is their dark world. Sham talks about the people of this particular dark world hoping the Lightners will return someday, and possibly hinting towards adventures that have happened. This is Azrael and Dessa's Ralsei, the frayed buttons and yarn in December's room, just like the buttons and dodgy patchwork keeping Sham together. And Ralsei teaches Susie, the girl in the Fun Gang's particular group of 3, how to use magic. Sham is a magician. And if this game is once again telling us a story about repeating stories, then this is the Darkener magician teaching the girl, December, how to use magic, the fiery sword magician. This is why Ralsei teaches Susie healing magic instead. He's trying to get a better ending. He's trying to make everyone nice. He can use fire magic, but chooses not to, only doing so as a non-violent act in chapter 4. And on the fire thing, December being a fiery magician, isn't that odd? The holidays clearly with an innate control over ice magic, with seemingly a fiery magician girl as one of their daughters. I mean, her personality definitely seems very fiery, and in stark contrast to the cold and calculated nature of someone like her mother. But why does she wield fire magic? Because, like the royalty thing from before, she is not part of the bloodline. She is not a reindeer. She is a human who has learned magic from Sham, the court magician. And doesn't it make a beautiful yet tragic sense for the adopted child to be unable to wield ice magic, to instead be this fire magician, a reminder that she and her family are inherently different beings. Okay, here we go. I want to briefly talk about the beginning of the game as someone we can only assume is Dr. Gaster connects with the soul and indeed with us in the depths. The imagery shown in this scene is a real image of the sea that has been altered, named image_depths. The depths seem to be representative of a plane of reality beyond that of the game, seeing as if this is Gaster, who is apparently fractured across space and time. I think this is probably the kind of place he would end up and in turn speak to us and be able to reach us through stuff like Toby's Twitter. I am dangerously close to talking about my theory that I feel makes a lot of sense with Gaster and the depths and the water and the data of the game itself. Maybe that will see the light of day, maybe it won't, maybe I'll get to the core of that thought someday, but I digress. What are we doing here in the depths? Well, we were given the survey program. We just listened to Gaster's call to us that he placed in this dimension, downloaded the program and connected to his device or whatever. But the soul, how did that get here? Here in the depths. Gaster's here in the depths, and Gaster is kind of fractured across the reality of the games. We can see his signs, we can see his footprints in the code of the game itself, with his number 6 appearing often in mysterious places. December is lost in a very similar way. She's the lost girl. She's gone, and I mean she's really gone. It's incredibly hard to even glean any kind of information about her, similar to Gaster. Is it too much of a stretch to imagine that perhaps Death herself is lost in the depths, and that this soul that we control is December Holiday's soul? And that means, here it comes, the Roaring Night is a soulless December holiday. Let's look at the lyrics to raise up your bet. Come follow me into the dark, with your heart as the arc, which shall shine you the way. Because I'm with you in the dark, with your heart as my mark, that will guide you the way through the waves. The heart as the ark, like Noah's Ark, through the water. Your heart as my mark. It is her mark, her symbol, her proof that she is with us in the dark and shining us the way through the waves, through the water, through the data, through the darkness, through the depths to find her? I can't say for sure. It's just how I feel. In Undertale, the soul we control seemingly belongs to Kara and not Frisk. In near-death experiences, such as getting a game over or falling in Waterfall, we suddenly hear memories of Kara's near-death experiences, right? Because it's their soul. This is going to be crazy. This is probably going to be totally wrong. But what if the dialogue at the start of the game? Nobody can choose who they are in this world. Your name is a traumatic memory of Carol talking to December and forcing a name upon her adopted child. Perhaps her name is not December, or perhaps December is the name she wants to have to identify with. And the white fade-in is because Chris, at the beginning of the game, combining with the soul for the first time, is having a near-death experience. It's unclear whether or not Frisk has their own soul in Undertale and is merely being possessed by another soul, or perhaps Kara's soul has taken Frisk's soul's place. But one thing I can confirm for you is that Frisk did not fully absorb Kara's soul. Indeed, it is impossible, as described by one of the TrueLab entries. After all, a monster cannot absorb the soul of other monsters, just as a human cannot absorb a human soul. With that being said, Chris is clearly having some trouble with us and with the soul. Someone else is controlling this soul, possessing them, something they seem to be going along with for now, but not without some bumps in the road and some physical symptoms of what is going on. In Chapter 4's Weirdwit, when we are free from Chris's body right after they have ripped us out, we are able to enter the room with them and Noelle through the text box and recombine with Chris, to repossess Chris. So if this soul is December's soul, would we not be able to do the same thing if she is indeed a human, and especially if the soul belongs to her? Well, in the fight with the Roaring Knight, they open their chests, exposing their insides and their ribcage, and whatever this thing is. Some kind of void in their chest. However, when they do so, an act that, if this is December, could potentially leave her vulnerable, the soul is pushed away. We are unable to reach them while this void is open. Look at these sprites. Look at what December is doing while idle. Remind you of anyone? Again, both of these characters in the Dark World are knights, adopted children of royalty, but they are not blood royalty, so they both remain merely knights. Look again to Chapter 4. Without soul, Chris will. And suddenly, it starts to make sense why Chris hates us, but cannot afford to exist without us. Not for too long. Chris Knight might end up being real after all, perhaps if they are deprived of this soul for too long. This raises so many questions. Where is Chris's soul, and why is it gone? And to questions like that, I simply do not know. I don't think any of us can realistically hope to answer any kind of big question like this at this moment in time. But if I had to guess something from everything I've read, it's that she really has been with us in the dark from the very beginning. I think that a bit does it. I hope at the very least this video has been enjoyable and maybe kindled your excitement further for Deltarune. This time next year, this video is probably going to be horribly outdated, and I'm okay with that. In a lot of ways, I don't want to be right about anything. I want Deltarune to happen to me, not to suggest exactly where I think it should go. I'm just passionate, okay? I just love this story, and I'm just so excited to see where it goes next. Thank you to all my friends and loved ones that have suffered me in my moments of being unable to bottle all this in. Being able to speak my thoughts and formulate them has led to this video existing in the first place, and I'm so grateful for them. Am I ever going to make a theory video like this ever again? Maybe, but I really just wanted to make at least this one. To at least try and find the lost girl before she eventually finds us. Thank you for watching.